Have you guys seen the movie Erin Brokovich? It's a good movie. Julia Roberts. Uh, it's about the lawsuit against PG&E back, I don't know, 20 some years ago. Uh, and Julia Roberts plays Erin Brokovich, and the movie goes along, and there's this scene where they've won the first the first lawsuit that allows them to create a class action lawsuit and to proceed. But at this point, the case is too big for this little Ed Masry's little law firm uh, to proceed with it, because there's like 635 plaintiffs in a big class action lawsuit, and so they bring in another law firm to help with the caseload here. And the way Erin Brockovich is portrayed in the movie, she's this temperamental person, right? And she's very like egotistical almost. And there's a scene where it's the handoff from Erin Brockovich's work to the new law firm, and Erin Brockovich is none too happy about this. And so the lawyer Teresa from the new law firm, she says, "Hey, Erin, great work. Great work up until this point. It's a great start. It's a great start on the. It's a great start, and we just need to fill in a few holes in your research." And Erin, she's not happy. She's like, "There are no holes in my research." And Teresa says, "Erin, I mean, you don't even have phone numbers for some of these people." And then Erin says, "Well, whose phone number do you need?" And she's going to prove that, she's got the whole entire case memorized, and she knows all 635 plaintiffs by heart and all of that. And so I think that that's a good analogy to Project Guru, right? I mean, Erin Brockovich is representing in this analogy the Project Guru, and the Project Guru knows everything, but hasn't bothered to document anything so that anybody else can come along and help out. And by the way, this is a movie, okay? I highly doubt that this scene in real life went down like this, because it's portrayed as so kind of ridiculous. Of course you're going to have written down the names and telephone numbers. I don't know, maybe she didn't. But I'm guessing that it's probably not 100% accurate portrayal of what happened in real life. But anyways, so when I have to admit that I have some certain sympathies to poor little Teresa on the other side of the table there, that when Teresa says, or Erin says to Teresa, "Well, whose phone number do you need?" And, Teresa says, "Erin, you don't even have telephone numbers for all these people." And Erin says, "Whose telephone number do you need?" And Teresa says, "Erin, it's a lawsuit. I need all of them." And then Erin says, "Yeah, well, give me one specifically," and so she has to prove that she's got them all memorized. But I've been in situations like this where the particular project that I'm thinking about, I was asked to write an import-export routine to convert the database from the old version of the product onto the new version of the product, and the database technology had changed behind the scenes, so we had to do a full export of all the old data and then a full re-import of all the new data. And that got me to thinking that it'd be real helpful for this project if I had like a written database schema, so that I could make sure that I've got everything covered, so I have a holistic understanding of all the tables and everything that need to be exported. And so I say to the principal engineer on the project, a guy who's been there for 15 plus years, and I just asked him a simple question. I'm like, "Hey, do we have a database schema document?" And he pulled an Erin Brokovich on me. He's like, "Well, what database table do you need?" I'm like, "I'm writing an import-export routine. I need all of them." And then he just couldn't understand like why I would need a database schema. Like, it's like, okay, so the answer is no, right? And no, we don't have a database schema. That's all I was asking, right? But he just couldn't understand why I would need that. Now this, I've worked at a lot of different places over the last 20 years, and there's been no place that I've worked at that has a documented database schema. This completely baffles me. When I did my last startup, it was a defect tracking system for for software development teams. The very first thing I did is I wrote a database schema specification. I had in my mind the features that we were going to develop, and I mean, you might say that's a big design up front, but I had some previous experience with defect tracking, so I had a pretty clear vision of what this was going to look like. I mean, and I wrote a database schema document. It made perfect sense to me, and that database schema document really formed the core of everything. I mean, it's how we, around that database schema document, we built we built our API. It translated into how the user interface was going to look, and it was really a very important core starting point for the company and for the product. So I guess you could say that I'm representing schema first development. It's not a bad idea, but it just completely baffles me that every place I've worked since then, nobody has a documented database schema. I'm talking about like a 5,000 person company with a product that's been in existence for 20 years and used by millions of users. And I mean, I'm not talking about some small little startup here. I don't have a documented database schema. It's impossible for me to believe that they don't have their database schema document. I asked a bunch of people, hey, do we have a database schema document? And no one I knew where it was. It's hard for me to believe that they don't have it in there somewhere, but it's just that all the people I asked didn't have it. But I think a database schema document is a good way to get started on a project. I mean, I'm not advocating big design up front, okay? But I do think that there's value to a database schema document. It gives people a holistic understanding of the product. If I read a database schema document, I can have a pretty good understanding of all the things that product does. So it's a great way to onboard people, I think, if you have a documented database schema. I read the schema and I go, oh, okay, there's a table for defects. Oh, okay, there's a table for custom fields. Oh, okay, there's states and workflows and transitions. And oh, there's users and groups and members of groups. And like, oh, okay, I mean, a half an hour reading a database schema document, I got a pretty good understanding of the functionality of the product. No one doesn't. Even the principal engineer that I was describing, I mean, if he had said, hey, it's a good idea, but we just haven't had time, it just hasn't been a priority or something like that. I mean, that'd be one thing. He didn't even believe in it. He didn't even understand why that would be valuable. It's completely baffling to me. But so my approach and the company I'm doing, and if we ever do consulting or anything like that, I mean, we advocate two basic things: breaking large projects, large pieces of work that are intractable down into smaller tractable pieces of work, and we advocating a documentation as you go style of development, not big design up front, but that as you develop your code, that you evolve your documentation in lockstep with your code. And that's actually the tool that we're building, is a documentation tool for software developers to create this holistic understanding of their project, and to be able to get the whole team on one page. So it's a little bit like a wiki, but we kind of take a wiki to the next level in the sense that we support a docs as code like workflow. You can write markdown files and store it in a Git hosting system like GitHub, and then you can sort of mount or attach your your Git hosted markdown files and bring them into this environment and rearrange them so you can have a nice scaffolding of documentation. Be able to get the whole team on the same page. So that's basically what the approach to development we advocate. A database schema document, though, getting back to the original point, I mean, if you haven't done a database schema document, I would recommend you consider it. I think it's a very, very helpful document. Thanks.